Chapter 1: Main Issues of Translation Studies. In this chapter, the book explains two major concepts and models of translation studies and several meanings that has the translation in the field of languages. Also, in this text, explain the different translations that exist, like intersemiotic translation, interlingual translation, between others, and the different verbal sign systems. That has been the traditional focus of translation studies. Some authors of this chapter have their point of view about translation. They say that each of these construes the process of translation differently and anticipates that the target text will show a substantial change of font compared to the source. The translation have had an important role to facilitate the communication in context different through years, and in the world exist many places to study the translation and interpretation. There are higher level and university language courses and professional translator training. The research and studies of some authors compare the translation from one language to another, identifying the correct terminology for each translation because they realized that errors were found. A reason for which they study the linguistics of the translation and incorporate the grammar, adding that exist theories that are subdivided in translation by machine and humans, and present-day research has transformed that 1972 perspective because the translation policy is far more likely to be related to the ideology, including language, policy, and hegemony, that determines translation. Although it would probably be best to consider interpreting as a parallel field under the title of Interpreting Studies. Developments continued at a fast pace in the new millennium, with special interest devoted to translation, globalization, and resistance research activity, as well as the practice of translation, has also been revolutionized by new technologies. These new areas include audiovisual translation, localization, and corpus-based translation studies. Exist translation and translation studies, reflecting the different centers of interest of research. Translation looks at the act of translation and is subdivided into lingual mode, interlingual, intralingual, media, printed, audiovisual, electronic. Mode, covert, overt translation, direct, indirect translation, mother tongue, other tongue translation, pseudo translation, retranslation, self-translation, side-translation, etc. While political, journalistic, technical, literary, religious, scientific, commercial, and translation studies is subdivided into approaches. Example, cultural approach, linguistic approach. Theories, example, general translation theory or policy system theory. Research methods, example, descriptive, empirical, applied translation studies, reasoning, didactic, institutional, environment. Into the translation are linguistics, especially semantics, pragmatics, applied and constructive linguistics, cognitive linguistics, modern languages and language studies, comparative literature, cultural studies, including gender studies and postcolonial studies, and the specialized translation courses should have an element of instruction in the disciplines in which the trainers are planning to translate, such as law, politics, medicine, finance, science, etc. Thank you.